It is time for a brand new series, and we're going through the book of Romans. Steve,
Yes.
Book of Romans. I thought I knew the book of Romans, but I love that. Thanks for singing, by the way. It's more like this message is more like a musical than actually a sermon.
I mean, I've been losing my voice. Just like disclaimer, I usually have a beautiful singing voice, but my
Said
voice
no
has
one
been-
ever.
Of so many
I
people.
don't think really.
So many people.
You talked about the Bohemian Rhapsody, and I really connected with that because you're like, we kind of think we know it. And they're like, oh wait, I don't really know it. By the way, do you have a specific Bohemian Rhapsody moment for yourself in life where you're like, you thought you knew something and then, oh my gosh, I don't really know?
I mean, I think that's literally my whole life as a follower of Jesus Christ. It's like, oh, I've had this all figured out, and then moments later, I guess I didn't know that. And there's like many other. I'm not wrong very often, but there are moments where I am, because everything's all about having the right answers all the time.
He's not wrong very often, folks. He's not wrong very often.
I'm being sarcastic.
This is, I hope so. I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm also being funny. Hey, in today's world, divisions, Steve, are so deep. We experience it all around us all the time, politically, of course, but culturally, even within our church, theologically, doctrinally. How can we practically are going to start living this out? This call by Paul to call to unity, especially when things are so divided. How do we practically do that?
I mean, if it was an easy answer, we'd probably all be doing it. But I mean, the core tenets of Jesus are to love God by loving one another, and I think humility, empathy, grace, practicing those things, even going back to like things we've talked about in the past, is not looking at people as objects, not like seeing image bearers of God in the people that we interact with, goes a really, really long way.
It's easy to remember too to say, I'm going to look at everybody as us and not as them, and even move away from that language. Like they are so, who's they?
Right.
Well, they is us.
I
We
mean,
are.
there's so many layers to it, because when you say they, like, it's so easy to categorize people and label people as like, oh, you're this, 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 and this. And if you are that they, then it means X, Y, and Z about the way you think, the way you live. We just make up our minds so quickly about people.
Well, in America, I think we've been taught that there's two columns of people, and you either think in all these issues, culturally, politically, theologically, you think about it this way, or it's this way, and never the two shall meet, and you're definitely not going to mix those columns.
Right.
When really, in reality, I think we're all somewhere mixed in.
Yeah, with different things.
Someplace.
There's layers to people, and I think that's kind of like what Paul's doing too. He's breaking down these like walls that had been built up for a long period of time, and now there's this like unifying thing of Jesus, but they didn't know how to operate in that. Like they're so new at this, and you'd think with 2,000 extra years on them, we'd figured it out by now, but
Yeah, that we would read Romans and go, man, the Jews and the Gentiles, they didn't get it together, but you know what now? But we've been studying this, and we now know how to
millennia.
be. Yeah,
we
for
are
millennia.
great at it.
And we're still
It's
really,
right there.
really struggling
Yeah.
with us and them. And also it bleeds into who's in and who's out in the church.
Yeah.
How do you think Paul, or what do you think Paul would say if he were here today about how we define the in and the out?
I mean, I think you try to break that down so fast. I mean, so one of the beautiful things about Romans, which we'll get into later on, like some of those Romans road verses is like, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Like too often we posture ourselves as like, they have sinned and not me. And so I think Paul would just be reminding us, like, you're all kind of connected by your fallen, broken ways of being, but you have this opportunity at harmony and shalom and beauty and peace through Jesus Christ, the resurrected Jesus Christ. And but so often we elevate ourselves over other people, and I think he'd try to break that down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I like that you say we have to just look at things differently. You talked about the resurrection. Look at the resurrection more, and let that be the lens maybe with which you see other people. Is that what you try to do?
I mean, I try to. There's like moments where it's, someone irritates you or something happens where you get
Tell
off
me more about
kilter.
that. That doesn't really happen to me.
It's happening now.
That was good. That's good.
No, I think there's just like so many. I think that's what we have to remember about Romans, is without the resurrection of Jesus, Paul's not writing any of this. Like there's no a church, there's none of it. And so for Paul, he's very, very clear on saying to the Jews and the Gentiles, like, the resurrection of Jesus is everything. And it should inform the way we live, the way we treat one another, and how we operate in the onset of this new creation that Jesus developed and brought to fruition.
Yeah. So looking at the resurrection and using that, and look around that at other people and
look
say,
through that, yeah,
and
yeah.
look through that and say, that's, those are the glasses that I think we need to put on with every person that we encounter. Well, let me leave you with a question too. Okay, I've asked Steve some questions, but I want to ask you a question. And you can talk about it with the people who are attending church with you right now in the room, or you can use it as a starting entry in a journal today. You can throw it in a text thread with friends, but let's keep this conversation going, because growing comes when we sit across the table from one another, when we hear each other's perspective and learn from other people's experiences. So here's the question. How might God be calling you to break down barriers? Cultural barriers, political barriers, personal barriers that stand in the way of truly living as one family in Christ. Let's answer that question, and I hope to see you next time.